Hey guys, so this is the start of my new YouTube channel. I'm gonna start talking about, all things fiber related, the basics, beginner stuff, and today we're actually going to be doing some, let's turn this around. Here we go. This is called a CommScope 450D can, and today we are tying in a 2-count fiber here, CommScope 2F. That means there's 2 fibers in there. One is just a backup, and let's get at it. All right, so the first thing here we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take this piece off, which is called a collar. Sorry for the shakiness. But now that we have the collar off, we can take this piece off, which is called the dome, which now exposes our tray with our fiber in it. Now what we have to do is we have to reopen all this here so that we can get this inside and seal it up correctly so no water or other natural things get into the case. And what we're going to start with is these little clips here. And once we have those clips, I'm going to take this nut off. This is the ground. And then I'll take this piece off, which is called the collar, and then we can start feeding in our 2-count fiber. So let's go ahead and get that off. Hey guys, we're back. Alrighty, so now that we're gonna take the collar off and we've taken these clips off, next we're gonna take, remember that nut? We're gonna take that off first. Now once we got that off, we're going to want to shimmy the collar backwards this way. And sometimes these things get really stuck and they're kind of a pain. But this piece here, this is basically, it's like a screw, except what it does is, here, I can just show you better than I can tell you. Give me a second, guys. There we go. Alright. So let's start by getting this piece off. And I like to use a screwdriver. Sometimes I use a drill, depending on the day. But today, I believe I'm just going to go ahead and use the screwdriver because I don't currently know where my drill is. It's somewhere here. But for the sake of the video and, giving you guys the best content I can give you guys, we're just going to go ahead and do this by hand. Alright, now we see that unscrewed. So now it's going to make this piece come off of this piece a little bit easier. So set you guys back down for a minute here. Watch me struggle with it. Like I said, these things can get stuck on pretty well, and they don't like to come off very easily. So yeah, you have to struggle with it a little bit. Alright, give me a second, guys, and I'll get this off and we'll be right back. Alright, now that we have the collar off, it exposes the gel core. Now this is what seals up the case. It's a little gelatin here. And it, like I said, it keeps moisture out of the case. We don't want our fibers getting frozen. Alright. So let's get back to it and see what we got going here. Alright, each of these already has 2 drops in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an open one. I like to keep it to 2 drops per slot. And that way it just... Sorry for the camera footage here. I totally suck at, you know, making sure the camera doesn't fall over and, you know, so you guys can see everything. I suck at that, sorry. It doesn't get overcrowded, you know? It makes it a little bit easier for us to work on. And this, sorry about that, guys. This is what we call a re-entry kit. And this is for, you know, like I said, drops. It's actually a 4-port re-entry kit. And what I mean by 4-port is that it allows you to use 4 drops with this piece. 1, 2, 3, 4. But like I said, I like to keep it down to just 2. You know, sometimes you have to go more, but if I can avoid going more, then that's what I do. Alright, once we got that squared away, what we want to do is we want to measure and mark where we're going to be cutting at. Me, personally, I like to go about 1 inch past this mark, or this indent right here. And it allows, you know, space to open the fiber, but also leave a little bit that's unexposed as well. Because if you look right here, these clamp down. This piece here is clamped down with that right there, and then secured with a hose clamp. So if I open it back here, well then that hose clamp and that steel right there is going to bite into the fiber, and we don't want that. It's actually a 4-port re-entry kit, and what I mean by 4-port is that it allows you to use 4 drops with this piece. 1, 2, 3, 4. But like I said, I like to keep it down to just 2. You know, sometimes you have to go more, but if I can avoid going more, then that's what I do. Alright, once we got that squared away, what we want to do is we want to measure and mark where we're going to be cutting at. Me, personally, I like to go about 1 inch past this mark, or this indent right here, and it allows, you know, space to open the fiber, but also leave a little bit that's unexposed as well. Because if you look right here, these clamp down. This piece here is clamped down with that right there, and then secured with a hose clamp. So if I open it back here, well then that hose clamp and that steel right there is going to bite into the fiber, and we don't want that. Next, we're going to take our ground wire and peel that back all the way to about 2 inches past this mark that we made. So right about in there. Now once we got it to this part, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cut the remainder of this off, and I like to leave about, I'd say 10 inches or so, or a little bit less, just depending. And now we are ready to open the cable. To open the cable, we're going to use this tool right here. And this is it says Gennard Tools FOD 2000. So this opens this flat 2-count fiber here. And what you do is you go to the very end of your fiber, and you want to put it in your fiber. Well, first you're going to open it like this, and then you want to put your fiber through this end like so. And then you're going to feed it all the way down to your mark right there. Right now, see that line right there? You want to line that right up with your mark, clamp down, and then you simply pull back all the way to the end. This is very hard to do while holding the camera in my hand. And once you have that stripped, what we're going to do is we're going to open the cable. Now this, I may have to do some finagling with this phone, and I can show you guys how I do it. All I do is I take my side snips, I like to use the angled ones, and kind of bite in and peel it back a little. Now, I'm not worried about breaking anything at this end because it's the end. If I need to, I can cut a piece off. What then I do is I pull these apart, like so, all the way to my mark. And then what I do is I'm going to cut the outer shell off right at my mark. And then what I'm going to do is, see these pieces right here? This is our fiber. Now these two pieces are what they call a strength member. And what we want to do is we want to leave about 3 inches or so and slip that off. And then we'll get rid of the excess. I like to coil mine up. You know, everybody has their own thing. I like to coil mine up, and just makes a easy to manage, you know. Ooh. And then that goes right in my trash. Alright, so now that we got our cable exposed, we have to set the case up and put all of our hardware in there. And for that, we need these clamps and this piece right here. So what I'll do is I'll go to my trusty little bag here that I keep extra pieces in, and we're gonna find exactly what we need. So we need one of these little fancy clips. Now those re-entry kits, they come with a little clip like this, but I like to use the longer ones if I have one. But today I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna use the one from the re-entry kit. And so now we have all of our little pieces. What we're gonna do is we need to put this inside this piece, and it goes in right there. Whoop, this is not working the greatest for me. Set you guys down somewhere here so I can show you guys. Forgive me for all this camera stuff. I am not very good at this. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna put that in there. Dang, see how it clamped right in there? Now, what we need to do is we need to put it in here. So we'll move our fiber out of the way. clamp and press that down. Sometimes they click, sometimes they, make a noise to let you know that it's stuck. This one seems to be a little bit loose, so it's not really working the way I wanted it to. But that's all right, it'll still work. So what we want to do with this piece is we want to put it in that slot. And so basically how it's going to look is that piece is in there, this fiber goes in there, now this piece goes on top, and what we want to do is we want to take one of these strength members, or both. I typically just do one, and we're going to measure it to this point here, and then we will cut it. And once we have that cut to length, now we can use this on here to clamp it like so. Alright, now that we have this piece on, what we need to do is we need to take, let's move our ground through there, so that's on this side. Yep, just like that. Sometimes it likes to spring back on you. But what we're going to do next is we're going to take this hose clamp, open it, and then place it there. Now we have the hose clamp on. Just need to finish tightening it down, which is almost impossible with the camera, man. So let's just set you guys down for a second. I'll get this clamped on and then show you what it actually looks like after it is fully clamped. And now it's fully clamped. We have our cable coming in. Now we're going to stick this piece on there, put their cable on there, and then we'll close up the gel cord. And now we have our gel cord closed back up, and we are ready to move on to the next step. I like to go ahead and put the collar back on, but everybody's different. So let's do that. Let's get the collar back on. And now we have the collar fully on. We want to go ahead and get our grounding back on. So I'll put this ground nut on there. We take our can wrench and just tighten it down. All right. Now on to the splicing part. Alright, so now that we have our fiber prepped, mostly, we're going to clean up our areas since I'm such a pigsty. And then we are going to cut our fiber. Let's get this set up for y'all. What I'm actually doing. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to, make sure that we have enough fiber. And then what I like to do is I like to come in and measure it out, make it nice and pretty. And I go to about the middle of the tray. And I break off the rest. Since we know that's that side, and this is this side, this one's going to go up here. So what we want to do is do the same thing we did on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and loop this around as many times as we can until we get to to this. Well, that's going to be a little short, so what we want to do is bring it in here, right to the middle of the chip, make a little loop, and break off the other section. Now, for some people, that may be a big no-no, but for this project, it is perfectly fine. Now we want to get our machine a splice sleeve and our cleaver. Now we'll turn our machine on, we'll get our cleaver ready, and we'll go ahead and put the splice sleeve over the fiber. And then we want to get a piece of Kim white. I like to fold mine a few times. Everybody, you know, does their own thing. I'm gonna put a little bit of cleaning solution on there, and then we're gonna start stripping our fiber. I go about a little over an inch, get most of the cladding off, and then I come behind with my Kim wipe, give it a nice cleaning, and then I'll place inside of my cleaver. Now that we have this fiber cleaved and cleaned, we can place it inside of the splice machine. Now time for the next fiber. Again, a little bit more than an inch. Scrape off, clean with our finger, come back with our Kim white, and wipe the fiber. Now it goes into our cleaver, and then into our splice machine. Everybody does theirs differently, you know, they have their own little thing. I personally, I like to take my shrink tube and place it just inside there before I close my lid. Now the splice machine is lining it up, and it's fused. Anything for this project, anything less than .02 is a good splice. Now once we have it spliced and the machine is done, I like to lift this part up. This is my heater. This is what's going to shrink my shrink tube. So I open the lid. The machine does a test. It's called a strength test, and it pulls at it a little bit to make sure that, you know, the splice was a good splice and it's not going to easily break. And once we get it out of the machine, we want to center the splice into the middle of the shrink tube and then place it in our heater. Close our clamps, then close the lid. This prevents any dust getting into the machine, although you are going to get some dust, but the less amount of dust, the less problems we may run into later on down the road. Now once it's done heating, I take it out of the heater and I set it into the cool tray. I close the lid and then I turn off my machine. No need to kill the battery. I don't need to use the machine until I'm at the house side of the splice. And that's where I connect into a NID. When I say connect, I mean that's the other side is where I do another splice for an easy connect for the installers. Alright, so what we do is, now that we've finished our splice, move the splice machine out of the way. There's a little metal bar, and you want to try to keep that to the top, because when you press into these, if you're not pressing on the metal side, you could snap your splice. Now we definitely do not want that, because there's no way of knowing if the splice broke until we do the other side at the house. Now we don't want that to happen, because before I go to the house, I'm going to hang this case back up on the line. And we want to make sure that we don't have to bring it back down. So we really want to be careful when we're done with our splice and we're putting the fiber back into the tray. That is a very key and vital important step, is, you know, making sure that we're not breaking any other fiber, because this is all live fiber. I'm not exactly sure how many people are on this particular one, but it's quite a bit. That was supposed to fit in there just a little bit better. Almost got it. As you can see, this case has been opened and been worked on many times. So now that we have our splice into it, the case, now we can put the other fibers that have not been tied into yet back into the tray. And what we want to do is we want to make this easy for the next person that may need to come into this case, you know, to do another splice, or maybe to reroute. Sometimes we have to reroute these. What I mean by reroute is sometimes you get a broken fiber and, you know, a customer needs a new fiber, and so when we come back into these cases with a customer that needs a new fiber, we call it a reroute. And kind of struggling here, as you guys can see, with getting this fiber back in here because this tray is in my way. Alright, now that we have the fiber back in, we can put our tray top back in. Now you want to make sure on these 4 points there isn't fiber there, because sometimes they like to pop up and lay across there right as you're putting the lid on. And that is the end of the splice. So what we do is we take this tie, we go ahead and tie it down, strap it down, and we are done. All that's left is we got to put the dome back on and our collar back on and then hang it up.